Warning! This video is important to me, and it took me 50 hours to complete it. If I like to upload more videos, it will be better soon. Enjoy! We all been talking about all of the golden eras over the golden years, but you are around of the age since the early days of the golden age. This is the Hezeki universe, aka Hezeki Project Universe for short. It only run in the 1970s and went up to 2025. I made the canon universe so it will actually be canon, none of them are non-canon or not. So yes, we're going to be talking about the histories of Hezeki and his friends, going from the golden era 1970s to straight up going to the big 25, since the classic era is almost going to come to an end, and start off with the new era as the reboot. Whatever we do, let's just straight up with the histories. Now, let's go! The Golden Era. The Golden Era is the nostalgic. Well, not really. Other because that Hezeki team was basically named Miracle Star Studios. And it's a weird name. Anyways, Miracle Star Productions actually made the Wonder Boy that came before the one and only true Ice Boy named Hezeki. Then, a few years later, Hezeki was introduced first, back in 1968. His design is basically a square head instead of a circle, but don't mind me. Yeah, right. But then, in May 22nd of 1970, Hezeki was supposed to look like this. And it was the ever first Hezeki design. This design was popular since 1970 to 1973, before it was changed to this. I should have known that. As of you know, on August 12th of 1986, a Hezeki Day was released, and it was spreading around a marathon. I was known to the others to know anyone that August 12th was Hezeki Day, back in 1986. Yes, I should have known that it was the actual first Hezeki Day to exist. Don't mind me. Anyways, let's go on with the 90s era. The 90s era. So everyone knows about this, but the 90s era is like your nostalgic trip, like your when you're watching cartoons like Ed, Edd n Eddy, Johnny Bravo, you name it. Now let's go with the fun stuff. Did you know Hezeki has the first Hezeki game back in 1989? Well, there are no screenshots of it. This game was actually ported to the Sega Genesis, aka the Mega Drive, which is saying a lot. It was originally going to be released, but sadly it was cancelled. Next one is the characters. Not only Hezeki was getting introduced, but there was a Hezeki character that was made before Hezeki, which is by the name Braden Locks. This is what Hezeki looks like, and this is what Hezeki before he was made. Where has he been, by the way? But then, 1 year later, Hezeki was made. But did you know, in 1990, Hezeki was changed to this. And yes, this is the one with the red bow tie gray shoes, and blue long shirt. Because why not? Anyways, let's go on to the characters. When did all say that Hezeki team added another character, but everyone's gonna like, oh, Hezeki has a brother now? The answer is yes. Back in 1992, Hezeki's friends were introduced like Modkei, Mezekai, Rrthiel, Wubsy, and Lunella Lafayette. Yeah, most of the characters were forgotten, like these two guys. Like, the only character that was never forgotten was Monkey. In 1994, Hezeki had his first movie. That was Hezeki CD'd. Two characters were introduced like Rosie Rose and Metal Hezeki. And then a spin-off, one character that was introduced, and it was Mayhem Jr., which it had its own spin-off. So yeah, that was it. But 2 years later, in 1997, 3 characters that were introduced. 3 of them are Michelle, Peku, and Mayhem. Before their names were Kate and Peggy. So 1998, after Sonic Adventure was released, there were no characters that were introduced, just the same characters. But in 1999, Hezeki has a first rival, was by the name Mustache Girl. Do you think Mustache Girl was actually a rival of Hezeki though? Yeah, I did not notice that. But hey, we are almost there to the final era. Now let's move on to the 2000s era. The 2000s era. I guess. Yeah, I definitely know this was the 2000s era, but the 90s era was peak, because of course not. Apparently you never know the differences between that, but what's the point of that? So yes, this was the era, but as you don't know, on May 3rd of 2000, a Nick Jr. show aired on television that was simply called Hey Peggy. Yes, Peggy speaks Japanese. Is there a problem with that? Yeah, I talk about that, but hey, look at the bright side. On 2001 of December 1st, the first Hezeki anime was aired on Tokyo 7 that was simply called Hezeki X. And yes, most of the characters that were introduced. Characters like Seascape, Meowba, Domix, Barry, Jess, Carrie, Snailian, and Walden. And don't forget Lucas. And don't forget Eddie, by the way. And then, you all remember, Hezeki has the first super form. Yeah, I was trying to be cool, but this is the Hezeki super form. But to those who don't know, Meowba and Wubsy that were debuted in 1989, and Seascape that was debuted in 1997. You know what he actually looks like? He looks like this. Yeah, I did not notice that. Yeah, jokes decided that, Hey, on the bright side, on January 2nd of 2002, an early footage of Hezeki was revealed. And yes, this Hezeki design was there. Yeah, right. I should have known that. Hey guys, editor here. I just want to let you know, in the 90s era, I forgot to edit one character that was introduced that was by the name Kratzy, because I forgot to add one that was introduced in 1992, the same year as Monkey and Wubsy. Yeah, I forgot. I'm so sorry that I forgot her. Please don't get angry at me. And Please don't report my video, please. But hey, you might be wondering something. On 2003, another early footage was revealed. All because they wanted to introduce 3 characters. Characters like Romix, Tayai, and yes, of course, Fionax. Fionax has her robot voice. Her robot voice before she has the text-to-speech voice like Remote from BFDI, and before she was debuted in BFHPA. But on 2005 of January 15, which was MLK Jr. Day, I'm not talking not 3, but 6 characters. Is there a problem with that? 6 characters that were introduced, like this. Their characters are Penny, Elliot, Nurse Golden, Phomix, Homix, and yes, Lomix. Her cousin, of course. But on the same year, 2005, on February 25th, Hezekai's first 3D movie was introduced, and 1 character was here. They were like, oh, let's give Hezekai another rival. So they introduced Christopher. And that's about it. But hey, he was a concept character, by the way. His concept was Horios, aka Reflected Of. And bonus, 1 character that was introduced in the post-credits was Slizzykai. And yes, Silver the Hedgehog does not exist in 2005. On 2006, Me and My Friends was made. Characters like Lily, Hannah, Chloe, and yes, Karog. And some of the characters that were never introduced again. But what gives? But on 2008, yes, the worst era that 2008 was, Hezekai 08. I guess the fans said it's worse than Sonic 06, of course. I have no idea why did I have to do this though. POV, Hezekai 08 be like, everybody said, oh, this game is worse than Sonic 06. Oh, and another thing, why do we need Hezekai 08? It has more glitches and bugs, blah blah blah. The fact they introduced 1 character in this game, and 1 character is Adrian. Cause why not? In 2008, the Hezekai magazines was there. They introduced some of the characters, like for example, Hortensia, Nate, Alex, and Diamond. Well, as you know, on December 12th of 2009, do you all remember the game A Hat in Time? No? Well, in case of a game that was made by Christian Whitehead, the Taxman, Gears for Breakfast, and yes, Simon Tomley. They introduced 2 characters. That was Hats Kid and Bow Kid, which indeed 2 playable characters in this game. Yes, that was the thing before A Hat in Time was actually released. Well, we're almost there at the end. Now let's go with the 2010s era. The 2010s era. I thought should be easier on that because why not? On 2010 of December 10th, after the game was released, A Hat in Time has a new DLC that was basically called the Expanded Pack. On 2011, Hezekai X was ended on 2 seasons. which is kinda boring. On November 12th of 2012, a comic series that was by the name Hezeki 4 was made, which had 3 characters that were introduced. Characters like Noah, Jock, and of course Sharon. Sharon was introduced in the first comic before he was actually appeared in Hezeki 11 first season. On 2013, one character that was introduced in one of the comics was by the name Emily, which was saying a lot. On 2014, Hezeki 4 was actually become a series. This was before it was live action in 2016. Is there a problem? Anyways, in 2015, Hezeki 5 was about to release, but unfortunately it was scrapped for unknown reasons. In 2016, Hezeki 4 is now a thing now. Just when after Five Nights at Freddy's was released. Yeah, that horror game I suppose. On 2017, the release after Sonic Mania, a game that was simply called Hezeki Madness. And in 2018, a comic series that's when after Hezeki 4 that was simply called The Totally Peggy Show. There was only one character that was introduced was Emma. That was Peggy's friend, but did you know Hezeki appeared in the Totally Peggy Show? Well, he was a cameo character of course, which it was turned to be this one. Yes, the Totally Peggy Show was even more successfully popular just when before Baldi's Basics was released. On 2019, Hezeki PC Adventures is released. And yes, Hezeki goes to Elmore from the amazing world of Gumball. It was that moment, but everybody said, oh, Gumball and Hezeki have never had a crossover before. Welp, it's the final time of the year that we are heading to the 2020s era. The 2020s era. Hey, you all know my favorite things in 2020 is stay at home because of the COVID-19 crap. And you know what's interesting? When I make things on Scratch. Actually, I was using Scratch since I was like the year when Scratch 2.0 was there, but is there still a problem with that? Because what gives, man? But I used Scratch before. But yeah, on May 22nd of 2020, I celebrated the year of Hezeki's 50th anniversary. This is when I also celebrated his birthday. But hey, I introduced one character to the series that was by the name Lefty Sonic. Well, she was introduced in Sonic's Pizzeria Simulator. That I start with Hezeki 9. Why did I introduce one character, but we have 2 characters that were introduced in Hezeki 10? On October 10th, I introduced not 1, but 7 characters. 7 of the characters are Leo, Bob, Origin Sonic from Five Nights at Sonic's 5, Hugo, and of course, Toy Wubsy. Does anyone know where she come from? I'm just asking the question. Where does she come from? Well, it only ran 1 season. And yes, a special Hezeki 10, the movie. But with scenes that make people cry, like some movie scenes like this. Well, instead of making my own comeback to Hezeki 10, of course, instead I was making Hezeki 11 instead. which means they will have a comeback 5 years later, which is saying a lot though. But did you know there was a pilot back in 2019? Well, I decided to make this design instead of making this design. And by the way, the music that was playing in every Hezeki Nintendo 10 intro was playing 50/50 by Vantage. I don't want to have to play the music because of copyright, because how did you know? Because why? Because I don't want to play it because of I will get a copyright strike again. Yeah. Saves you right, but what gives, man? It did make a comeback with APHFB, of course. Well, I guess not. No, I'm serious though. Oh, and by the way, this is what's the worst idea it is. When I make animations like this, I'm never coming back. Yeah, sorry for being an idiot on animations too much though. Well, since I was a goofy one. But this is where Hezeki Nintendo 11 was made. Like this intro before. It's on my Bandalab playlist, so link in description. And the music intro that was played, that was composed by none other than Dark Cat. Still not playing that because of copyright though. So yes, Bubble Tea by Dark Cat is one of my favorite songs ever in 2020, which it was 100% on this soundtrack. On November 13th of 2020, an adaptation based on Hezeki Nintendo 4 that was simply called Hezeki Nintendo 11 was made. Of course you do that. And a special called Hezeki Nintendo 11 The Movie was premiered. Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary, but hey, remember this guy? He was introduced. Speaking of new characters though, 3 characters that were introduced. They were Nina, Nadro, and Nadia. On December 1st of 2020, Season 2 was released. And 3 characters that were introduced. That are Leon, Louie, and Tyler. And don't forget these guys because they were introduced as well. I guess so. On 2021, BFHPA, also known as Battle for Hezeki PC Adventures, was released. And 64 contestants that were battling for a prize that was simply called a Hezeki PC Adventures. And yes, of course. Alright, speedrunning all the characters that were introduced back in 2021. Let's go. The characters that were introduced are... well... Preston, Blue and Messigno from Pokemon, Calvin, Daffodil, Xavier and Chibi Xavier, Maggie, Jim and Charlie, Luciana and Luna, Queen Golden, Joe Lightflame, Blue Guy. Since this character is basically a character from scratch, by the way, who all do those kind of things like that. Maisie, ah! Sorry guys, I'm out of breath. In 2022, I'm not to mention that, but there were no characters that were introduced. And plus, more Hezeki movies were made, because why not? But yes, on 2023 of January 21st, Hezeki Nintendo 11 the movie has a first sequel. And on February 25th, 2023, Hezeki's 3rd season was released. It introduced some characters, like for example, their junior counterparts, Kate's siblings, Sarah and Keiki, and that's about it. And also on June 2023, Hezeki Extreme was made, named after a Sonic canceled game on the Sega Saturn. And you all guys thinking that when I detailed my character design though? Well, Since South Park Adventures and the Hezeki ICL 11 movie trilogy, because everyone will say, oh, I have an idea. Let's take this Hezeki and give him more details. And don't forget this one. So yeah, and also, those characters have spin-offs existed, blah blah blah, what gives? And most of the characters that were introduced. Characters that were introduced to the spin-off is Panic the Porcupine and, yes, Holy Roll. And I remember that. But let's go into 2024. But did you might have been known seasons 7 to 11 that were released? And yes, season 9 has the IC numbers. But yes, on April 22nd of 2024, I basically got a YouTube channel. And on May of 2024, I introduced one character in Season 12 that was made by a little girl, of course, that was simply named, of course, Becky. Yes, I'm talking about this girl. So yeah, on Season 13, all of the characters that were introduced. The characters are Cashew, Fen228, Lacey, True and Timeless Tim, Maisie and Jay, Wendy, even though she was introduced in the 5th season, and Max. So yeah, that's all the season 13 characters. Okay, let's just move on to season 14. 4 characters that were introduced. Characters like Jimmy, Fairy aka Frederick, please support Safari by the way, and Taylor. Okay, who invited this girl anyways? And yes, season 14 has ended with the final episode though. And after the finals episode, the creator of Hezeki has passed away. Which is saying a lot. Now let's go to the big 25. Okay, don't get me wrong, before I introduce characters from season 15, Hezeki, you basically don't know Isaac Anderson animate this because you don't notice that, right? You notice that, right? Hey, they all say, Hezeki, don't you know this is a good idea to do that? Yeah, I know that. Anyways, I'll introduce some of the characters. Some of them are crossover characters, so I'll introduce them as well. Okay, I will introduce the characters like Metal Monkey, MX from Mario 85, Miracle Machine, Samsonite, Bella, well, how did I introduce her by the way? And you thought I was about to introduce someone? No. Yeah, I'm not introducing someone in season 15. That's all. Okay, I'll introduce the post-credits characters. Can you guess those characters that I'm returning? Okay, rewind this first. Remember what I'm talking about in my 90s era? Where the characters that were introduced are Rrthiel Rose and Metal Hezeki? Well, guess what? I gave them a return. Okay, I was like, she grew up so fast. But yes. Yeah, I think I gave them a return because why not? Because everyone will say, and they were like, I thought season 15 was the finale. Well, season 16 is. The reason why I did that because why not? Let's just move on to something old, I guess. On May 22nd of 2025, I celebrate Hezeki's 55th anniversary. And yes, Hezeki is turning 55. And that's about it. I'm sorry I had to do this, but I have to do this the hard way. the 2025 era, aka the worst era that Hezekai's in. Yes, I have to do this timestamp shortly, cause why the heck not? Yes, Hezeki team has some techno difficulties. First, in June of 2025, Hey Peggy was cancelled in Nick Jr. The reason why they cancelled it because Hezeki team said it ended with 4 seasons. And the Hezeki fandom was shut down. And most importantly, yes, this is a short timestamp. Well, let's just move on to the last one. Don't get me wrong, by the way. I can't. The final era of the day. Yes, it's the last era of the day. I did some updates on the characters. Well, I gave Wubsy and Walden redesigns because why not? And second, I introduced some new characters of the day. I introduced new characters, Maliki the Bee and Tyrone the Ox. Aren't oxes supposed to have a tail though? And plus, I made this picture out of nowhere, by the way. And did you know Season 3 have a beta? And yes, it already been found. And did you know Season 3 was originally going to be released in 2021? But here are the character designs. And yes, some of the lost medias are found, including this one. And you know what else I'm not forgetting? The reboot. All of the characters will be in the style of Gacha Life. Yes, that's right. To finger to Gacha Life. And I made this with PixArt because why not? Yes, the only characters that never have a Gacha Life design is Thomas, Percy, and Toby. Cause why not? And if you zoom in, you'll know the differences. And yes, the Dreamcast era is for this little fella. And yes, I forgot 3 characters. I introduced 3 characters like Mayhem Doll, Wubsy Doll, and yes, Metal Walden. And oh, remember the promo arts? Yeah, I forgot that as well. But don't worry, I'll make more of them. Yeah, that's about it. Cause why not? Why not? And there you have it, the histories of Hezeki and friends. We all know this is a long video though, but wait, am I forgetting something? Oh, I remember, Object Lacey. I forgot something, but this is a spin-off. But yes, the reboot will still go on. Well, I guess this is it for the series event. Don't know Hezeki has a new voice actor soon. And yes, a remastered version of Hezeki Nyaisi 11, the movie from 2020 that has simply named Hezeki Nyaisi 11, the movie Re-Ice. Well, this is it for today, and I'll see you next time. Peace!